Hi peaches, it's Shaaba. Welcome back to my channel and thank you for clicking on another video. You know what time it is. It is that weekly time where we go fishing for a-holes. I'm not quite sure why I said for a-holes, but there we go. As you know, my loves, we take a look at the subreddit where people ask if they have been a-holy because it's a little bit of fun. It's a little bit of juicy drama, isn't it? But it's also a chance to expand our own mindsets and hopefully help others do the same too. Alrighty, shall we go fishing? Am I the asshole for forbidding my girlfriend to use my cell phone? Are you hiding something, sir? I say sir. I actually don't know what gender this person is. That was very cis-heteronormative of me to assume. My girlfriend and I have been together for 3 years. We live together and recently we had a fight about accessing someone else's cell phone. I always gave her complete freedom to use my cell phone and she did the same, even though we almost never took each other's cell phones. The word cell phone is sounding really weird. It's also not something that I use all the time because I'm like, where's my phone? Yesterday, she was listening to music whilst cleaning the house. I didn't like music very much and I went there to change it. At the same time, she freaked out at me saying that I couldn't touch her cell phone, that the cell phone was her property. I thought it was strange. After all, we always had that kind of freedom. We ended up arguing and I told her that if I couldn't take her cell phone, she couldn't take mine either. She freaked out even more, saying that she could have access to my cell phone, but I couldn't see hers. Since then, we've been on the outs and are giving each other the silent treatment. Was I an a-hole? I'm confused. I actually thought it was about you hiding something, but actually it sounds like your girlfriend's hiding something. Let's unpack that for a second. So in the past, you've always had the freedom to look at each other's phones. Same, I don't think that's weird. It doesn't mean, it's not necessarily something you say, but you know, like me and Jamie, for example, if Jamie's got music on that I don't like, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to skip this song, I'll go to the phone and I'll change it. So to go from that to be like, no, that would make me think, oh, well, there's something clearly on your phone that you don't want me to see. Of course, my mind initially went to, babe, I think she's cheating on you, but it might not be that, because if that was the case in our relationship, as in mine with Jamie's, I'd just be like, oh, nope, can't do that, sorry. And I will actually say this because quite often I'll be like, oh, Jamie, go on my email if you want to see XYZ. If you want to know the answer to this question, yes, it's in this email. But I'll be like, don't check my emails because I just bought you something and you'll see the order confirmation or whatever, you know? Sometimes it takes surprise out of it, but we're so codependent, if I don't do it, I know he would absolutely see it. So yeah, I too would find it odd going from that to then be like, no, you can't take a look at it. But then to be like, you can't take a look because it's my property, which is a different rule to what you normally do. That is a little bit odd. I would truly believe that my girlfriend was hiding something from me if I were in your position. Would I necessarily think it was bad? No. I'd be like, what's on your phone? I'd probably be more inclined to think that they'd like placed an order for donuts that was coming or something like that, you know, that they wanted to surprise me with. And I think there's a great teaching moment here, right? And that's in communication, because what my thoughts are saying, if I was in that position, I'm sure you feel a similar way, is, oh, this is odd. Normally, we have this understanding where there isn't a my property, your property in this way. If I want to change a song, you'd normally not have a problem with that. It's okay to communicate these things. I think molehills can become mountains when people then go, oh, well, fine, you're not allowed to look at mine either. That's not the point. Your aim out of this is not for your girlfriend to not be able to look at your phone. You're fine with her looking at your phone. Your aim out of this is to understand, why are you not letting me see your phone and change the music, which is something I've always been able to do. So being able to have that conversation, be like, just from where I'm standing, kind of feels like maybe there's something you don't want me to see. If that is the case, that's totally fine. You're allowed to have your own things. But I'm bringing it up because it's very different to how we'd normally act and respond in these situations. So there you go. I'm sharing my thoughts. That's the better conversation to have. But no. All this to say, I don't think you are the asshole, my love. But I definitely think that a further conversation should be had where you're like, you know what? I have something to talk about because it didn't make me feel the most comfortable. I just wondered if maybe we could talk it through. Honesty is always the best policy. Yep, she doesn't want you looking through the phone, not the asshole, but definitely be ready to find out she's cheating. She's cheating, bro. You're getting cheated on. She's cheating. Pretty sure she's cheating. The consensus is you're not the asshole and that your girlfriend is probably cheating on you. I don't think we can jump to that conclusion, but talk to her. See where it goes. That would be my advice. Hooey! Am I the asshole for not letting our daughter move back home? My husband and I have 3 children. 25-year-old girl, 16-year-old boy, 13-year-old girl. Our oldest, 25-year-old girl, woman now, I guess. Our oldest moved out 3 years ago with her boyfriend and got an apartment. So she moved out at 22. They were together 4 years before that, so it wasn't like she ran off with some guy that she'd just met. We supported her decision. She was old enough and working full time. The issue is rent in our area has more than doubled on average since. Their landlord raised the rent 40% in the span of 3 months and they couldn't afford to stay there anymore. This is so arseholey from landlords. I honestly don't have a problem against the general idea of being a landlord, but when unethical landlords or landlords adopt unethical practices like that, There is nothing that infuriates me more. Like, my blood boils. I'm like, how the frick can you allow such manipulation to happen for personal greed when somebody else is literally, like, it's a roof over someone's head? You know, it's not something to swindle people on. 40% in 3 months is ridiculous. And a little point of advice for anybody who may be entering new rental contracts, there is a thing called rental freezes that you should absolutely be inquiring about and seeing if you can make use of. A rental price freeze means that for any length of period, I've seen them for as long as 2 years, you do not change the price of the rent. Typically 2 years is quite unusual. It's 6 months to a year, but you shouldn't be able to change that. Sometimes obviously people won't agree, but it's no harm in asking the question. But if they do agree, that's great extra protection for you. They weren't exactly swimming in cash before that, and they don't really have enough for the first, last and security with the market. Not that there's much there in their price range anyway. Their plan was to move in with her boyfriend's parents for a few months whilst they figured stuff out and saved up, but they won't let her come with. Okay, so the boyfriend's family will take in him, but not your daughter. So they proposed an idea. She'd move back in with us, him with his parents, and they'd save up and be gone in 6 months tops. The issue is, me and my husband don't feel that's appropriate. She's an adult now, and she needs to learn to take care of herself, not relying on handouts from her parents. She offered to pay rent, but we'd only do that if she agreed to pay the market average plus her share of utilities, which would mean she couldn't save up like she wants to. Because we aren't doing that, she's been forced to share a 2-bed apartment with 6 other people. Does that mean with a living room converted, there's 2 people to a room? Some of whom she finds sketchy. I feel for her, but I still think it's her responsibility. At this point, she doesn't call much anymore, and I'm worried this may have impacted our relationship. You are totally the arsehole. You are a big arsehole. That is such a move. So your daughter's trying to be financially sensible, right? She's had a job for a long time. She's offering you a plan with 6 months and offering to pay a level of rent that you are now demanding it has to be the average rent. So you're doing that extra, which isn't particularly nice. And you're wanting her to not do it at all on top of that. One of the issues that I have with these cross-generational ways of thinking and the assumptions that, oh, they stand on their own 2 feet now, is number one, happens. Sometimes things happen beyond your control. The horrific cost of living crisis and rent increases that's definitely happening in the UK. I don't know where you are, but you know, it's happening in multiple places in the world. This 40% increase is a lot. That's not something that anybody can control. And it sucks. And if you have the space, like if I had the space and the means as a parent to house my child, I wouldn't think twice. If I had the ability to do that and not have them pay rent, I wouldn't think twice. Actually, no. I maybe would think twice on the rent front if I felt that they were being irresponsible and needed some way of budgeting to be like, well, you know, you contribute towards it because that's different to like contributing to the bills. Like if your mortgage or rent amount is the same, them contributing is just you profiting off of it. So to even ask for market rate is just freaking ridiculous. What kind of parent does that? Again, it would be different if you couldn't afford to do it. But this assumption that, oh, she should do better. Like, you have no idea what the market is like for somebody now. The way that house prices and rent prices have gone up is exponential to the way that wage increases have gone up compared to when these parents were the child's age. It is a totally different economy. It's a totally different context of the bills that have to be paid, of healthcare needs, of food increase prices, of so many things. And the other thing that's also really important to point out is that things will be astronomically more expensive for your daughter now that she's not sharing those costs with her partner. Her and her boyfriend were in one house, right? Which meant they had 2 salaries coming in, split on 1 packet of chicken breast or whatever that you're eating, right? Which sounds silly, but the world is made for 2 people or more. It's odd, it's just the way it is. Everything is cheaper when you are a couple. And so to go from that to now having to live separately and then saying to your daughter, oh, and you need to cover market average as one person, what is wrong with you? And to hear that your kid is now in some sketchy place, not a house with different people, a room with total strangers that she's finding sketchy. And for your head to just be like, oh, I'm worried this has impacted our relationship. Not, I'm worried about my child's safety. I'm worried that there are things that I could be doing for her that could make her exponentially more comfortable and better set up for the future. Big, big arsehole move. I can't see it any other way. I really hope that some of these responses have been able to help you and your family context, I don't know if you're making decisions with your partner, understand that you should really be stepping in more to help your daughter, because I just think that's totally inappropriate. You are the arsehole. Seriously, your daughter's an adult, but still your daughter. She's not relying on handouts. She offered to pay rent. You're really going to charge her the market average to live at home. She even gave you a timeline. I think you're being unreasonable. You completely acknowledge that she was screwed over, but yet you're willing to let her struggle when you presumably have the space. There's wanting for her to learn to be an adult, and there's being unreasonable jerks. I couldn't agree more. Wait until they're old and need help. I turn my back on them too. This idea that, oh, well, you're an adult now, you should do it. No. Of course, there is truth to that, but things happen all the time beyond our control. And just because we're an adult doesn't mean that we can't ask the people around us that we love and rely on and trust to help. OP sounds like one of those people who thinks the reasons young people can't buy a home is because of avocado on toast in Starbucks. Like, yes, her daughter is legally adult, but opportunities for adults look completely different now. I absolutely agree. Those are definitely the vibes that are coming off. And this idea of, oh, well, I would have been able to do that when I was younger. You're not young now. You're not living the experience now. I'm a boomer, and that's what I thought too. 30 years ago, this might have been a defensible position, but now it just sounds like someone with their head stuck in the sand. You're the arsehole. I also love the fact that someone has labelled themselves a boomer. Like, yes, I am a boomer, but even I disagree with what you're saying here. Am I the arsehole for recording a private conversation with my mum? My mum and I have had a very tense relationship for the past few years. We argue constantly and never seem to go more than a week without having a fight. It's gotten worse now that I'm about to move away from college. Sweetheart, I feel you. Parental relationships can be tricky, but this is definitely an occasion where distance makes the heart grow fonder. Know that it won't be too long until you're able to move out, and honestly, your relationship is likely to improve as a result. Mainly, the arguments are about how she treated me whilst I was growing up and how what she did hurt me. It goes back and forth for hours, and she doubles down on how I'm overreacting and how she tried her best to be the best mum she could be. Sometimes, though, she'll say something that hurts really bad, and anytime I try to bring it up, she denies that it ever happened. Okay, so this relationship with people in family is super duper relatable. I'm having a feeling that this sounds a bit gaslighty. Definitely a bit emotionally abusive, but I'm trying not to use such heavy language until we know a little bit more. So let's read on. I'm just getting vibes and signs based on personal experience. I tried to let it go, but it recently got to the point where I couldn't stand it anymore. It became harder and harder to just sit and have her talk at me like I was going insane. She kept telling me I was making these fabrications, big red flag there, and how I always tried to make her the bad guy. Last time we argued, I recorded it despite knowing that my mum has trauma around being recorded. That's a bit tricky. Did you tell them? During that argument, I remember clear as day that I told her trauma wasn't a contest. She responded by telling me that it was. I ended up walking away. Today we got into another argument about the same thing, and I explained to her how her treating my trauma like it was nothing just because she had it worse as a kid hurt me. This sounds very relatable and very textbook intergenerational trauma and gaslighting. She told me she'd never done that, and I quoted the last argument we had, saying I remember her telling me that trauma was a contest. She again denied it. I played her the video and she got quiet. Okay, so that to me suggests that you didn't tell her. Being very honest with you, I have recorded conversations in the past. Even relatively recently, I recorded a conversation, but it is illegal to record without letting people know in certain jurisdictions. I don't know where you are. I don't know if that falls to you. I made very sure that before I recorded, I said to everyone present in the room, know that I want to record this conversation. And I'm very happy to share this recording because it's important to me because of my past experience where I'm constantly being told that I'm lying and saying things that I didn't say. I wanted to know that I could rely on something, that I wasn't going insane and fabricating things. So I totally feel you, but it is really important to let people know that those are the conditions in which they're entering into a conversation. And you know, I thought about this a lot when I did it. There was so much of me that's just like, oh, this is a really bad idea because now they're not going to say things. But the reality is these people don't say things knowing that they are gaslighting or lying. They genuinely don't know. And that is the response that I got when I was recording. It was like, sure, fine, go on. I know there's nothing that I'm going to say that I'm going to regret. Absolutely, go for it. And it's that sense of afterwards hearing back being like, oh, that can be a really powerful moment. That is why those recordings are so valuable and useful when they are fully consented to. That is an important point. So yes, maybe a slight you are the asshole popping up here for not saying anything about recording taking place, but let's read on. She started pacing and acting really weird. Then she just snapped and started yelling at me, saying that I treated our issues like a game, that I kept recording so I could win, and how I was awful for doing that. She said that I took what she said out of context and recorded me knowing that she couldn't stand the idea of being recorded, and I feel awful. She said that I kept it only to throw it back in her face. I didn't think she'd react that badly to the recording. I only wanted to prove to her that she did say it. I knew she wouldn't like being recorded, but I didn't realise she'd be that upset. I don't know if I overstepped. I love my mum and I don't want to hurt her. I can't tell if I'm the reason that we argue so much. Am I the asshole? Babe, okay, I'm really sorry to say this, but this is an everybody sucks here moment. It is an everybody sucks here moment because you shouldn't have recorded, particularly if there's past trauma of recordings, without saying anything. Had you told her that that was being recorded, or even if it wasn't being recorded, if that's what the trauma was, if you knew, you were like, hey, this is a really shitty thing for you to say, like in the moment. There have also been times in the past where I've been like, you shouldn't say that. And they've gone, yeah, I should. And I'm like, I know you're going to throw this in my face later. If this were me in this situation, I would write down, you said that trauma is a contest, and I would get that person to sign it. And then later on, when they inevitably deny it, I'd be like, see, clear as day. Even if it's not a voice memo, I totally get the need to have that extra thing but again, with people knowing. So that's why it's an everybody sucks here moment. If it wasn't for the fact that you did it without them knowing, absolutely you are not the asshole. And regardless of whether you gave consent or not, even though it's an everybody sucks here because you were a bit assholey for doing it, I say assholey because that is a term that this subreddit uses, right? I totally appreciate the position that you're in. I totally appreciate the hardships that can lead you to feeling a need to record without people knowing. And I too, as a child, have done that. So yes, I very much feel for you, and you are 1,000,000%, regardless of whether it was wrong or not to record without consent, you are in an emotionally abusive relationship with your family, particularly with your mum, and that's never okay. Parental gaslighting is such a problem. It's something that people don't know enough about, and especially when it's linked to intergenerational trauma, it is far too easy to do. So if anybody is watching this and is like, oh wow, this is quite similar to situations that I've felt, know that you're not alone, know that there is a reason that it's happening, and know that you don't deserve to have to put up with things like that. I also want to clarify that you are not the reason that you're arguing this much, and going to college will be good because it will provide some distance, but also give you the opportunity to understand if this is really a relationship that you want to continue. And I know that it can be so hard thinking about that in terms of family. The idea of cutting people off, especially parents, can be such a tricky mind to have to deal with, right? At the same time, I see so many things that I have seen and experienced before. The idea that you're constantly arguing already, it's not a healthy relationship to have. The idea that you're already phrasing trauma as a contest and bringing up these old things that you're just going over again and again and again. There needs to be some closure there. It might not even be that it's entirely your mum's fault. Maybe you are the one inviting these unhealthy habits by not being able to let go of something. It's not your fault, but it might still be your problem. Or alternatively, it could be that your mum is the problem in this situation. But it definitely sounds like something that I would think hard and strong about and use therapy to help me come to a decision of what is healthiest ultimately for you and your mental health. Let's see what other people have to say. Not the asshole. Parental gaslighting of this nature is so hard to deal with. However, recording your mum is unlikely to achieve your goals. Sounds like your mum has some serious issues that requires professional help. She has to want to work on them. If you can, when you can, find a therapist to help you work through the stuff on your end. This kind of behaviour in a parent is so damaging. I agree with the fact that it's damaging. I do believe that the recording was wrong if it wasn't consensual, but I disagree with this person. I do think it did achieve your goal. And in this case, your goal was to know to yourself that you weren't driving yourself crazy, that what other people were telling you wasn't true. And that can be so important, especially when you are being gaslit. And I think it also shows that your mum has some really big issues that likely fall in the realm of narcissism, because that's what happens when people try to fabricate and claim power over narratives that aren't necessarily true or that work differently in their minds to how a reasonable person would see it. And that's what's happened here. It wasn't that you were recording to win some kind of game, but your mum's thinking of it as some kind of game because she absolutely does need help. As this person says, she doesn't have the same thinking patterns that a reasonable person would because of these narcissistic traits. Not her fault, still her problem. Of course, she hates being recorded. It makes it way harder to lie about stuff later. I had to deal with a similar situation, says someone else. I also recorded what was saying between us in fear that something would happen and then maybe my side would be seen. I ended up leaving and not returning, and it was one of the hardest but best decisions of my life. Quite often people do say that in these situations. It's really hard, even if somebody who is super narcissistic and does partake in gaslighting wants, because often they come hand in hand. Narcissists are most commonly the ones that do gaslight. Even if a narcissist wants help, even if someone who gaslights wants help, it can be incredibly difficult to get that help. And quite often it's the people around them and their loved ones that have to deal with it day in, day out, which is why just for self-preservation, it might be a good idea to walk away. I'm not suggesting that's what you should do, but I am absolutely suggesting that's something that you should have as one of your options, to know that it's not your only option to have to put up with this kind of behaviour. Ooh, that was a really, really heavy one. Let me know what you think, my loves. Do you agree? If you're going through something similar, I hope this can help in some way, at least by putting names and terminologies that you can then research and maybe look into a bit more if you feel like that could be enlightening to you. For now though, I will love you and leave you. I'm hoping the next time with the arsehole will not be so heavy. If you enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I'll catch you next time with another video. Be kind and have a great day. Bye.